That'll go through steel, stainless, galvanized, any of that kind of stuff, aluminum or whatever. It'll go through wood or whatever. The only thing it won't go through is concrete. You'll burn it out before you ever get anywhere with it. Depending on how many holes you have to drill, determines what you'll need with it. A lot of guys make mistakes and they'll drill through everything on the same high speed with the drill. You'll burn out your bits depending on what you're drilling through. The drills, almost if you have a good drill, unless you buy like Black & Decker or something, it's not going to have multi-speeds on it. But that's the high speed, low speed. The low speed has more torque. You want to use low speed on stainless steel. The faster you go, the faster you're going to burn your bit out on stainless steel. If you'll notice, like if you go to Home Depot, they have black drill bits. Then they have these brass-looking ones or whatever. They're cobalt bits. They're harder and a sharper edge, so they're used more for drilling thick steel and stainless. We don't typically run into anything that we're drilling through stainless, but they do make cutting oil. If you had to, believe it or not, the slower you go, if you put that oil on there, it'll go through the stainless like butter, and it'll save the life of your bit, so you're not buying bits every week. This is a paddle bit. That's for wood. Makes nice clean holes. They make paddle bits that have threads on them as well, and so if you're doing like stud after stud, where like you're at the corner of a wall, usually they'll put two studs together or headers or whatever, they have threads on them and it'll actually thread into the wood and drill at a steady pace and get through it quicker without you having to put your whole shoulder into it. The other bits are here. Masonry bits. If you look at it, it looks like a metal bit, but if you look at the difference on the tip of it, it has kind of like a little arrowhead on there. They're meant for concrete, brick. The only thing you'll have a harder time with if it's poured concrete. Brick walls and cinder block walls and mortar are all soft material, believe it or not. Poured concrete is a thicker substance and they vibrate it when they pour it to get all the air bubbles out and condense it. So Chris learned that firsthand at the apartment complex. It's a bitch to drill through poured concrete with one of these. Now this drill it's a regular drill or a hammer drill, and you can't get, without a hammer drill you're not getting through any of it. You could try, but even with a concrete bit on a regular drill, you'll be there all day. It's just impossible. The hammer drills have hammering action that'll actually lift. You can't see it because it happens too fast, but it'll lift the bit and push it back in at a fast pace, and it helps get through the brick and stuff easier. But this is not good for poured concrete. You need the real hammer drill. That's a full-time hammer drill. They spin and they have a lot more torque, and the hammering action is a lot harder for poured concrete. So those are some of the different bits. There's also what they call a hole saw. That's for steel, metal, stainless, any wood you can use it on. It's a pain in the ass with wood because then the wood sleeve kind of gets stuck in there and you got to wedge it out with your screwdriver. But that'll go through just about anything but concrete again. They do have hole saws. If you look at the difference from that head to this one, these are flat and they're kind of widened as opposed to those the pointy ones. That's for concrete and brick. They're core drill bits, hole saws. Core drills are meant for concrete, poured concrete and all that kind of stuff. They're diamond tip blades, edges on them, so they'll eat through the concrete without burning it out. So that's what you want to use if you have to make a decent sized hole. Those are the kind of bits that you want. They do make much bigger ones. Those are for a regular drill. They make bigger drills that you'll use with the bigger bits of this type. And if you're going like huge, then the ones that I gave you guys the other day are the ones you want to use. They're a lot heavier. They won't break down as much. Yeah, and they make those things all the way up to like, I've seen them as big as like 18 inches. Wow. You know, so, but those types of drills, you have to actually bolt to the surface that you're drilling through and then fill the holes afterwards. But yeah, they're massive. There's two different types of masonry bits. There's the one that I passed around is for this type of drill. Then they also make what are called SDS bits, SDS. They have this weird connector spline on the end of the drill bit. They go in the big hammer drills that we have. And there's also two different types of them. The real big one has that star bit. This one is the SDS end. You can see it still has that like flattened head on it, but that's what you want to use in the big hammer drills. They make, depending on what you're drilling through and how big the surface is, they make the paddle bits in the extension. They make extensions for the hole saw that you can put in there. They make little ones for the regular drill, you know, all different sizes. You know, sometimes I end up having to stick a couple of them together. But anything you need, they sell. It's just a matter of getting them here. If you need them, we can get them for you because we supply the bits because we burn out of them so quickly. Even the long wood bits and metal bits. This one actually has a hole in it, and that's for pulling wire afterwards. If you drill through a long surface and you don't want to pull the bit out to send a snake through, when you pull it out, you can tie a piece of string through there and back it out, and it'll pull the string through for you. Knowing what kind of bit to use will get you through your surface faster without burning up all of them. That's pretty much it on the drilling. Anchors is another thing. Once you get your hole drilled, depending on what you're going to use, what you're hanging or whatever, it'll either come out good and last forever and stay hanging forever, or you're going to kill somebody. And I've seen guys hang stuff, and an hour later, or even a week or a month later, the stuff is falling. And a couple times, guys got hurt on the job. I've hung everything from small boxes and whatever, like fixtures, to the heaviest thing I ever hung was a 2.5-ton transformer over a laboratory. So like scientists and everything in there, and it was a 40-foot ceiling. All the power and everything was above the ceiling, so the lab was neat, but you know, there was nothing visible other than the lab equipment. All the transformers and major power and everything was all above the ceiling. So you know, the rigging on that was pretty extensive because they had to build a whole steel structure just to hold the transformer. But you know, it was me and another guy. We 2.5-ton transformer that we hung. So that was pretty cool. But depending on what you're hanging is going to determine what kind of anchors you're using and what kind of setup you're going to do. I don't have any plastic anchors, I don't think. Oh, maybe in here. Oh, shit. So some of the small things like the cameras that we put on the outsides of buildings or in ceiling tile, whatever, these are called mollies or plastic anchors. They come with the anchor and the screw that it goes with. They make all different sizes, you know, little ones, big ones. Anything lightweight, a pound or two, whatever, up to like maybe 5 pounds depending. This one will probably hold up to about 15-25 pounds if it's hanging straight down. If it's like this, it'll hold a lot more. But I don't ever use this for anything big. Cameras and stuff like that, that's fine. If you're going to hang something that's a little heavier, 30 or 40 pounds, and it's not hanging upside down or from the ceiling, these are called zip-its. At least that's what I've always called them. They go in sheetrock. You make a little pilot hole where you can just put this point on your spot and then drill it right in. These hold a lot better than the plastic anchors because they actually eat into the sheetrock. So, you know, if you're hanging something that's still not too heavy, but substantial enough, use this instead of the plastic anchors. It'll work out better for you. One of the main things that we use to hang everything is toggle bolts. Let me see that that metal stud there. Most of the stuff that we end up hanging are TVs and whatever. So, in the let me see. Inside the wall, if you're just going to go into the sheetrock, hopefully you're only hanging like a small, 13 to 20 inch monitor, because anything above that, eventually it'll eat through. I don't know where my small hole was. That's the one that you guys were using the other day?
Probably.
But in any event, a much smaller one. But usually what we do when we go through and hang the TVs, obviously for most of us, we've already been doing it, but anybody that doesn't know, if you're looking at the wall, the stud is right behind the sheetrock. We'll find the stud and drill through the center of the stud. It's best to use a hole saw because it's a metal bit and it'll get through it quicker instead of burning up your paddle bits or whatever. Regular metal drill bits, unless you go out and buy a really big one, we don't really have like the kits that you buy usually only go up to 1/2 inch. They're not big enough to fit a 1/4 inch toggle bolt through when it's folded like that. These nubs are a little bit bigger. My finger's still on there. So weird pointing that stuff with it. But you want to find the stud and drill through it. That way once you mount it, that wing gets caught up in here. So when you tighten it, you're not just pulling on the sheetrock, you're pulling on the whole wall. The whole wall's got to come down before the TV falls. So it's best to get, on your TV bracket, get 2 studs. You can hang an 80 inch, whatever. You don't have to have backing behind it or anything like that. Which most of our clients, say they're going to put backing behind it. They never do. Or it's in the wrong spot or whatever. If you find studs, you'll be able to drill right through and you won't have any issues. The toggle bolts, they come in all different sizes as well. With cameras, you can use most of the cameras, the screw heads on a lot of screws aren't big enough to fit in the camera and still get the cover on flush. If you buy the 1/8 inch toggle bolts,